Hello and welcome to In the Court of the Wenton Knave. Deep Purple, the band Deep Purple. We've got to an actual studio album of Deep Purple, and this album is called Deep Purple. Deep Purple, Deep Purple. This is the best one, basically. This is where they got it together. Before Mark II, they had got it together with this style of music. Made it a tricky time. The wheels had fallen off Mark I. Before Telegrammation went down, actually. They were seen as a pop group. The reviewers saw them as a pop group. They weren't able to get going in the UK at all, really. You know, they wanted to have their cake and eat it and have pop singles and good albums. Keeping their profile high with the pop singles. And that sort of Led Zeppelin thing of just riding that wave of heavy rock didn't happen because of that, partially. Ironically, actually, Mark II did do exactly that very well, until they didn't need to, obviously. Hush was a huge hit, and Kentucky Woman was as well, in the US. Nothing in the UK, and it does sound like bad marketing. It's apparently somebody at EMI, because EMI owned Deep Purple, marketed Deep Purple in Europe. In the US, it was Telegrammation. Someone at EMI decided to drop everything in favour of Hey Jude. It seems completely stupid because Hey Jude would sell anyway. You don't need to market Hey Jude. That's really strange. They even had John Peel on their side until I think the second album that he didn't like. That's John Peel. He only likes bands when they're new and not that big. So yeah, people thought they were a pop group. Reviewers would go to the concerts and be completely blown away if they went to the concerts. And even then, it's not enough. It's not enough to sell this stuff. Really, you could call this the second album, because the first two were made so closely together. But River Deep Mountain High was finished in October of '68. This was made on tour, starting in either January or February '69. So it's a couple of months again, really. The difference, though, is palpable. This is focused. This is brilliant stuff. They know what they're doing. They're really good at it. Playing is fantastic. They've got it together, and this is the Mark I, Austin Powers heavy rock. Fantastic, and it is more proggy than the later stuff. The next album after this one, tellingly, is Concerto with Group and Orchestra. That was where they were going, definitely. I've written here Clapton's Strat, okay, and I'm assuming that's to do with, I can't remember when I wrote this. That's to do with I think Clapton gave Richie Blackmore his Strat, or he sold it to him because the neck was bowed, which is really interesting. That got Blackmore into the Strat thing, because you have to remember Mark I, it's all about that big Gibson, but it must have been the high action on that and the tone he could get out of it with his weird technique. I assume he scalloped the frets as well, but either way, it means you've got more control. So it's harder to play, but you've got more control with lots of action or scalloped frets. So there's all this way of going in and out. The other thing, of course, is the plectrum. These are the ones I use. These triangular things, heavy plectrums, really strange. You can't do it with light strings. It's not very heavy metal. This is a different thing, heavy rock or something. And Blackmore uses something similar, but I think big square things with a point on the end. And it's not that you can play harder; it's that you've got more control over how hard you play, and you can get that thick tone out of it. It makes it more difficult, makes it more complicated. A real electric guitar thing rather than an acoustic guitar thing. Obviously, the metal thing is everything's the same in uniform, and that's not what this is, and that's why Richie Blackmore sounds weird or different. That's why it's amazing. Blackmore took the lion's share of the writing. Most of this stuff, Blackmore is the main driving force. Although it's credited to various members of the band, and that wouldn't be fixed until Stormbringer, which is another story. All of the albums studio albums after this and onward were all credited to multiple band members, unlike the early albums. Actually, strangely, the previous two. But yeah, it's basically 50% Blackmore. That's another story as well. They were managed by Edwards and Coletta still, and it sounds like they were pretty useless actually. They stumped up the money. They formed the band, remember, or Chris Curtis sort of, but obviously Chris Curtis was not well. It sounds like they just struck it lucky and got some really good musicians who invented this thing. There are stories that Nick Simper and Rod Evans were the ones who complained about the situation they were in, not getting any money, not being really told about the finances, and not being worth anything. And Edwards and Coletta staying in all the nice hotels and all that kind of stuff. But it's interesting that those two complained, and of course it was those two who were fired, supposedly by the other three, or it's all Richie Blackmore's fault. But Richie Blackmore got Nick Simper to ask these difficult questions about finance because he didn't want to ask. And John Lord refused to ask these questions because they're my friends. So that I think that's interesting. It's more likely that played a part in getting rid of them. But that wouldn't be the accepted story because it's the managers making decisions. At this point, it would still be the managers making decisions here. This is the thing. It's a good job they did, in one sense. Obviously, it was very unfair what did happen with the two of them being thrown out. So yeah. Tracks: Chasing Shadows, Driving, opening track. It's all about Ian Pace. Ian Pace is, I think, underrated, actually. The swing, fantastic. Blind is a good song. Lelena, it's a good ballad. Lelena, I Can't Blame You, is the lyrics. But it's good, it's good. Remember, this is 60s Austin Powers rock, the 60s Batman TV show. Fault Line, instrumental. Fault Line is actually an introduction to the Painter. Really good. It's actually played backwards. Ominous. The title is perfect for this instrumental music. It's ominous sounds happening and no. But it's really good played forwards as well. So if you reverse it, I don't think anyone's actually going to reverse on their record player, but obviously you can download the file and use software to reverse it. It's really good forwards as well. You can just hear the band playing the thing. No mention of Satan, whether it's played forwards or backwards, sadly. Sorry. The Painter, though, so this jumps into the Painter, which is really good. Kind of underrated track, I think. Fast driving thing, great Blackmoring on there, which is now a thing. There is an early version of the Painter called Hey Boppa Rebop. And I don't think it was really called that. I think they didn't have a title, and someone asked them, and they said Hey Boppa Rebop, I think. Then we got Why Didn't Rosemary, which is iconic. Again, it's still 60s and got that pop thing to it, but with loads of great Blackmore playing on it. And that's the one people use as the example of he's got a thing, and it's not quite there. It's still 60s, still 60s Blackmore, but it's in there, and the thick tone is there. Bird Has Flown, really good song. I think underrated actually. There's a Mark II version which is really good. And finally, April, the big epic 3-part thing. So you've got the first introductory bit, band stuff, and then you've got orchestral stuff. Remember, this is written by John Lord. I said Blackmore's sharing 50% of the writing, but John Lord is writing things like that as well. So it's very much a Blackmore Lord album, really. So that's the second movement of April, and then you've got the sort of epic ending by the band and another great guitar solo. This is great stuff. This is awesome stuff. It's got to be this one. If you're vaguely interested, maybe you're not that interested in Deep Purple, but you know about Mark 1, but you've heard Hush kind of thing, this is the one. Get this one. Really good.